If you have been telling yourself that bigger downloads are the reason that other podcasts land better guests or get sponsors or get bigger opportunities, think again, because in the media world, downloads aren't actually what open those doors. And that's why I've brought PR and media experts Bridget Sisco and Lydia Bagarosa here in the studio to break down what actually gets small podcasts taken seriously long before you have big numbers, and to show you how you can get quoted and featured in top media outlets and PR publications to build huge social proof for your podcast, even if you have fewer than 100 downloads an episode. Welcome to Insider Secrets to a Top 100 podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Elmer. Let's make your podcast binge-worthy. Bridget, Lydia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here today. We are. You have such a beautiful voice, by the way. I just love listening to you. Of course, you do what you do.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It means a lot to me personally. It really, really does. I would love for those listening right now to be able to identify your voices too. So before we get too far into anything, would you just give us a brief little intro about who is who and what you do in your role?
Sure. So my name is Bridget Sisco. I'm the co-founder of Visibility on Purpose, along with my business partner, Lydia Bagarosa. And my background actually started in the publishing industry. So I used to have a publishing company helping mostly women entrepreneurs put books out there into the world. And I really took it from the angle of, oh, wow, they need to get publicity for what they're doing as well. So that's kind of how I came into the world of PR. And I joined Arms and Hands and Hearts with Lydia Bagarosa because she has had a publicity agency and PR agency for a long time and has a long background in that. So I'll let her introduce herself, but that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Bridget. A little bit about myself. So my name is Lydia. I have been in PR for over 10 years now, which is wild. I started my career in the music industry. So I was in New York City working with top musicians, top talent, and transitioned into beauty, fashion, and lifestyle and product PR. So I've kind of done it all, where I've represented top talent and also some products that you probably have in your house. And I went off on my own in 2020, started my own agency. And then Bridget and I started Visibility on Purpose a few years ago, which is really a consulting company to help business owners pitch themselves to the media if they're not ready to hire a third party. I mean, even me as an agency owner, I hated turning people away when they said they weren't quite there yet or couldn't afford it right away. And there's so much access that I think the PR world has gatekept, so much information. And so our goal is to give everybody access to the media because they deserve it.
I love this. And I especially love your stance that PR is not for the Patagonians of the world. It's, in the context of our conversation today, really for podcasters who want listeners to trust them and the trust that you can build through PR. Because just like you said, Lydia, so many independent creators will hear PR and they'll immediately think, that's not for me. That's too expensive. I'm too small. Why is it, do you think, that small business owners and particularly podcasters tend to believe that PR maybe is something they can earn later or down the road versus something that they can use right now?
Yeah, I think it's what they see in the media, which is LOL, the catch-22. The big companies know the power of natural word of mouth, of organic coverage. And so anytime Patagonia, for example, releases a new product line or a new, clothing, or they're doing a new give back initiative, you're going to read about it in the media. So we're seeing that in the media every time we open a digital magazine. And so I think because of that, because we see our favorite artists and our favorite brands in the media all the time, we naturally think, oh, I can't be, alongside these huge mega companies, but you absolutely can. And once you understand how the media works, you can start to see for yourself the access that is possible to you.
I'm just loving what Lydia's saying because I think a lot of small brands, a lot of business owners who have a lot of heart in what they're doing, a lot of the people that we work with usually started their business for a reason. There was a reason something happened in their life and they're like, you know what, I'm going to start a business to help people. That's usually the initiator behind a lot of the clients that we work with. And they think that it's too big for them. They think it's too much money, or they don't know enough, or they don't have a big enough brand. But one thing Lydia and I always educate is big brands that you see in the media start somewhere. They had to start and get that ball rolling somehow. And many of them reached out to the media. And there are ways that you can start on your own, which is how I got started. I just realized, okay, I love podcasts. They're such a great way to connect with people, as I'm sure all of your audience and listeners also believe. So I was just getting myself on shows. I was like, let me just connect with people. And it's all about just reaching out. That's really where it starts.
I think that right there is a really important point, because we see this in podcasting too, where sponsorships, for example, okay, once I'm big enough, then the sponsors are just going to start approaching me and I'll be making all this money with my show. When the reverse is actually the truth. It's the proactivity of that host going out there to say okay, I'm going to pitch this sponsor. I'm going to position my value. I'm going to show them what I can bring them. And that is how they're landing their sponsors, at least the ones that we're working with who are landing sponsors. They're actually boots on the ground, out there presenting themselves, right? And pitching themselves. And something else that I love what y'all talk about, which is visibility really being a trust shortcut in a way, because a lot of podcasters are out here just grinding away thinking all right, I'm consistent. I've got great content. That's all it's going to take me to the top. But really, if you are podcasting, I don't care if you started yesterday, if you've been podcasting for 20 years, trust is ultimately what you need to build, because that's what's going to get someone to hit play, to follow your show, to buy from you, to take you up on your call to action, whatever it might be. So I'm curious, from where you sit, why is it that third-party visibility, like some sort of feature or mention or a guest spot on a big podcast, how does that work in building trust faster than, let's say, posting more on your Instagram or even running some ads? And more importantly, what is it that trust then allows a podcaster to have or do differently than maybe they're doing right now?
Yeah. So it is human nature to trust what others say over what that person says. Why? Because that's proof. That's proof that it actually works, proof that somebody else likes it. I mean, if I were to only see a brand talk about themselves, do I fully believe that that's true? Because anyone can say anything. But if I see an army of people saying, this product is amazing or this service is great. I really trust them. I love them. That builds trust, and that builds also like association with these bigger companies or things that we already trust. So for example, like Courtney, I love your show. And so any guest that I hear on your show, I'm going to immediately trust them because I trust you. And something I love to quote is Nielsen. Everyone knows the Nielsen Group, right? They said that 92% of consumers trust organic media like press coverage over ads. And so understanding those statistics really puts into perspective why this is so important.
And Lydia and I were just having this conversation before we got on. Social media and ads, they have a purpose. All of this has a purpose. But at the end of the day, that's us talking about our own business, whether, organically on social media or paying for it. And we are always biased about our businesses. Like naturally, we always think our businesses are the bee's knees. So when we have other people sharing about what we do and talking about our brand, and I used to work at Yelp in New York City, and how does Yelp work? It's all about word of mouth, sharing your favorite restaurant or your favorite pizza place and why you loved it or why you hated it. And it's the same goes with our businesses. So if you can get buzz and generate buzz for what you're doing, maybe whether it's your podcast or your business, you really have a higher leg to stand on. And I think influencer culture on social media has somehow, everyone's aware that like there are brand deals and ads and sponsorships and stuff like that going on. So we're somewhat trusting those people a little bit less. And there's something to be said for getting a feature in Forbes or being on a really, really highly loved podcast, whether it's a small niche community or a big one. Because, the niche communities are also where it's at. Like we have a lot of love for the smaller shows as well.
Yes, I think the organic piece is so key because, I'm thinking as you're sharing about this about like recently, we just bought a property that we're turning into an Airbnb. So I've been on Facebook Marketplace every single day, like, okay, looking at this, looking at that. Oh, we need a coffee table. We need this. Oh, that's a good deal. And what is the first thing I do? I go to the seller details and I see what their rating is because that is organic social proof. Someone is not going to leave a positive rating if they had a bad experience with that seller. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm unpacking the psychology of what's actually happening in my brain in that moment, but it's almost like the sense of relief that were I to buy from this seller, I will be likely to have a good experience if other people have had a good experience. So it increases that trust. But then Bridget, to your point, it's so funny because literally this morning, and of course I live in New Orleans, so it's like, the food capital of the USA in my own personal, humble, non-biased opinion. But my husband sent me this article and it's this, New Orleans-based publication with 3 new restaurants that just got Michelin stars. And there was one on the list that was kind of surprising. And it's not that it's a bad restaurant. It's a cool restaurant. We loved it when we went. But I was like, is that Michelin star worthy? And my husband's like, yeah, it's probably pay to play. And it was just, I have no idea how Michelin stars work. Okay, so I'm not saying that is how it is. And I would think that it's not that way. But I just thought it very interesting that was my husband's first reaction to media like that. And so to me, it's interesting to sit here and have this conversation and just think about that, as we bring this into the context of what we do as podcasters, what we might do as business owners outside of our podcast, if you have a business behind your podcast, that listener perception. So what I'm curious to know, is there a way to influence in a positive way that listener perception? Because I think there's a way to negatively manipulate it, right? And we kind of see that with like influencer culture. But is there a way to positively influence it as the host of our show when we show up to the mic?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is about association, and that's how PR works at the end of the day. It's like if we're getting ourselves on Forbes and I trust Forbes, association-wise, I'm going to trust that. So even if we're just starting out on our PR journey, PR can wear a lot of different hats too. So with podcasting, a lot of what we like to do with podcasts is use other people's audiences to leverage your own show. So you can offer podcast swaps if it's somebody that you like and trust, and then their audiences can come to your show, your audiences can go to their show. Sometimes what we'll see our clients do too is like if they really liked the interview somewhere, they're like, you know what, can I post this on my show too? Is that okay? And so it's kind of a cross promotion. And so I think really it's about helping build that community, which is why Bridget was talking about, really loving the smaller shows, sometimes the niche shows, because they have diehard fans. So even when you were talking about like how big you need to be in order to get sponsors, it's not about big, it's about your audience community and the engagement really. If I'm a mega show, but nothing sells from getting a sponsorship on, and you're a smaller show and you're able to sell a lot of products for whoever it is that you're getting a sponsorship for, it's going to really show like tenfold. So it's kind of like, how do we build that value? What does value mean to you? What does it mean to your community? And kind of looking at it from those value points and really leveraging those.
Yeah, to even build off of that, the value piece, which Lydia said, is everything. Like when you're a podcast host, it's about sharing the most helpful information or content or stories with your audience. So if you can make that connection to who you're speaking to and always just come from that angle, people are going to like what you're sharing. And the same goes when you pitch yourself to the media, or the same goes when you try to get someone onto your show. But one of the things that we see, now there's AI for everything. So you can go onto ChatGPT and be like, write me a pitch. But what they don't do is they don't pull your personality and your authenticity into it. Mm-hmm. And as a show host, the audience is actually connecting with your voice. They're connecting with who you are, which is building trust like right away. So if you can really lean on who you are, I know it sounds cliche, but think about the shows that like we all love. I love shows where I feel like I'm hanging out with them. My favorite show, Lydia knows and she's going to smile, is My First Million with Sean Parry and Sam Parr. And I feel like I'm hanging out with them. They do a really good job at that. So as a host, it's about being able to connect with your audience in that way and being real and being authentic. And I know these things sound cliche, but it's kind of cliche for a reason. So if you're like, I don't know, monotone and boring, that's probably not going to help you in your written pitch or to your audience.
Yes, it's so true. And Lydia, you mentioned earlier about the inner workings of the PR world and all of that. And I want to dig into that a little bit here before we get tactical, because I think this is going to be important context for people to have as well, especially someone listening to this right now who's like, okay, I'm curious. Like I would love to be able to get featured more and I would love to be able to build credibility for my brand. And ultimately, yes, I want to grow my podcast. So can you lift the curtain a little bit and just unpack, like, what does someone need to understand about the PR PR industry, particularly if they are someone who would like to get featured or who would like to land bigger guests for their show or who really want to grow past 100 downloads an episode where they're stuck right now and they're like, I just don't know how to get past that. What do they need to understand about being quote unquote small right now and utilizing PR as a vehicle to help them grow and to get where they ultimately want to go?
Well, what I will say first is media contacts want you to reach out. Just point blank. They are looking for content in the age of content. They are looking for value. They're looking for value to share with their audiences. So if you can provide value, like what Bridget said, they're interested. So it's not really about if you have the shiny name, although it might help you a little bit. It's really about how can I provide the most catered value to them? So if you are, for example, a service provider, say you're, I don't know, a dietitian nutritionist and you want to start a show and sell your products, you can also get featured on like Pop Sugar, for example, as an expert that is talking about something related to your field. They're always looking for experts. And so that could be an editorial version. Now, if we're specifically talking about podcasts, and this goes for anybody either wanting to be a personality or owning a business and trying to create a show that leverages, I would look into how can you get on other people's shows. Many times I've been not shocked, but like I've been doing this for over 10 years. There's been so many times that I've even been surprised where a client has pitched themselves to a big podcast thinking, all right, we're just going to throw this as like a Hail Mary and see what happens. And they respond back and say, this is exactly what I wanted to speak on my next episode. That's so funny. Yes, I want you on. And they have no prior experience getting featured. So again, it's about value, connection, relatability. And I think what can be kind of confusing sometimes when you look into PR is a lot of PR agencies will use their own lingo, right? They'll say like, it's all about storytelling, narrative, but what does that mean? That means how can I connect to the person on the other end? How can they help provide value? Those are the things that they're looking for.
To add on that, press compounds. So if you have a show and many of your audience is a business owner as well, or they want to like make a business out of the podcast, press compounds. So even if you have a small show, no worries. Invite some amazing guests on your show and tell them why you want them on your show. That would be a great place to start. Maybe you saw them on TV somewhere or you read about them or you've been following them on socials for a really long time. Let them know why, you want to bring them into your community. And that's like a small win. And then these wins compound. So then you're going to share about it on social media and you're going to tag that guest onto your show and then they're going to share it. And then you're going to start reaching out to magazines or other shows to be a guest on. And again, you're going to leverage everything. So it's like a snowball effect. And that's how it works for like any brand, right? So you're just kind of like piling into your backpack all of these things that you've done. And I think it's a great reminder for business owners and podcast hosts to reflect on everything they've done. Because I think it's really easy, and I'm so guilty of this myself, to forget all of like the small wins, which are really so big overall, and they do compound. So I want to just like remind everyone of that. All of these little things are going to build you, and that way you can get on bigger guests. You're going to start growing your show. And you know what? Sometimes this stuff is not overnight. And Lydia and I talk about like we're not like anti-viral culture, but like the realistic.
But we are kind of low-key anti-viral culture right now.
I mean, it's just like sometimes that works, and sometimes that's a great way to like catapult yourself and your business and your show. And a lot of times for the majority of us, that's just not how we grow. And to just like lean into the grittiness of growth, it's okay if it takes a little bit of time, but like remind yourself of the small wins, keep leveraging everything. And like that is part of your PR strategy, basically.
I love that you mentioned this because it's so true. And I think so many of us see the people that do get catapulted because they had that one reel that went viral or that TikTok or whatever it is. And then we think, well, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me too. And sure, anything is possible. But I think in terms of having realistic expectations around it, it doesn't mean we're not shooting for the moon. It just means that we are being more realistic about how long it will probably take. And if you do go viral with something, then great, look at it as a bonus, right? But if you're in this for the long haul, and if this is something that, you're podcasting because you want to do this, because you're passionate about it, because you have a message, you have a mission that you want to share through your voice, through your platform, through your podcast, well, then this is not something that you're necessarily looking to take to the moon tomorrow. In many cases, at least in my case, I can speak for myself, is that I don't care how long it takes because this is the work that I'm meant to be doing in the world. So it can take as long as it takes, as long as I'm here doing that work and fulfilling that purpose. So I am really excited in the next episode to break this down more tactically and to get into what you just mentioned, Bridget, which is the leverage piece of this. How can we take one feature and turn that into multiple features? How can we take that one guest spot on that podcast and turn that into an ongoing collaboration with that show host? So for everything that you shared here today, thank you so much. And if this got your wheels turning, then stay right where you are, because in the next episode, we're getting tactical and we're breaking down the first PR move that you should make if you have a small podcast to get your show featured in top publications. And most importantly, what actually makes a pitch work when you don't have huge download numbers to show yet. All that and more is coming up next to help you make your podcast binge-worthy.